There are stories that connect us to ourselves and to each other. These stories reveal who we are and show us the many vivid colors of our truth. Welcome to Soul Wanderings, where we raise spiritual awareness and foster connections through these shared stories and personal experiences. Now, exclusively on KGRA Digital Broadcasting, your hosts, AJ and Natalie.
Hello, Wanderers. Welcome, welcome. I am AJ.
And I am Natalie.
And we're your hosts of Soul Wanderings. And we are so happy to be here with you tonight. I'm on a happy high.
I know, it feels good.
Happy high. It feels so good to be here in the studio with Natalie and our producer, Chanel. Thank you for holding down the fort for us, girl. She's so
She's
good.
amazing.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. We are on kgradb.com. We're also on KGRA Digital Broadcasting, Facebook, and Rumble pages. I hope you're hanging out on one of those platforms where you can chat with other wanderers, ask questions for yourself, etc., etc. It's just a good place to be. However,
Yes,
the best place to be, live.kgradb.com. No one ever hangs out there.
that's what we're trying to change that.
Come support the station and hang out on live.kgradb.com. That is if you are listening to us live. If you are not, we are not going to be there. Just the replay. However, not just the replay.
Oh, no. It's like catch it after the live show if you can't make it.
Yeah, get it, get it. Hi, everyone. How's it going? How's your week been? I hope that it's been good. It's been good for me. What about you, Natalie?
Oh, yeah. It's been nice, a little wet because it's been rainy here, but
It's been sure rainy.
it's been good. We were just kind of talking about it. People are going through some intense things. It feels like there has definitely been some intense energy. Feels like it's in that consciousness field or 2023. I've had several people say, this is 2024. I thought 2024 was going to be different than 2023. And they're like, it feels the same thing as 2023. Yeah. And
well, I don't know if years really count.
They don't. I don't think that.
It's a good way for us to like decide where we're at in this time frame. But 2023 is like 2024 because we're still in the same timeline.
Well, it's true.
Right?
And then even if you think about the astrological, the way that astrology goes, it doesn't start on January 1st. The Chinese calendar doesn't start on the 1st of January. Only this interesting Gregorian calendar that starts then. So
whenever it starts.
Even the old like Celtic or the like Yule and those traditions don't line up with the Gregorian calendar.
But I've never played really into like learning, knowing. I know it's a thing. I'm just like, time is irrelevant.
We're in the same timeline as you said.
I know I've wasted a lot of time. I do know that.
I don't know. What is like wasting time anyway?
Getting lost on like YouTube shorts or like TikTok for an hour. Like, come on.
No, but see, you're not. I have to remind you, you're not this soul generator thing. When we bring in a little human design into our soul wandering show, because we both love it so much that it's like, no, I have to remind you, you're not an energy type, and non-energy types get the opportunity to recoup from the sacral field.
I get that. I'm not being like super technical, but I am serious about what I said. There's so much time I've just wasted. When you look at life and you're like, it really does fly by, right?
Oh, yeah.
And how we don't take it as seriously as it is. Then to me, I'm like, oh yeah, I've wasted a lot of time.
Oh, and I
I
always
don't,
want
like, dwell on it. I'm not, beating myself over how much time I wasted. It was just a comment, Natalie. One
just
that
a
I
tick, tick,
meant, but it's still the same.
I'm always wanting to, like, clean up negative mindset, so I'm just
Uh-huh.
like, "And that's not very helpful."
Oh, did you take that negatively? I took it as a
Constructive
marker.
criticism.
Yeah, a marker for doing better. It was an indicator of growth. Is that better? Is that more positive for
Why do I
you?
feel like you're kind of playing me right now?
I'm being serious. I'm just finding other words that don't sound negative. I would never play you, darling.
It's gonna be a fun show, I can tell already.
Yeah, so AJ's on one today.
I was considering these contemplations that I have, considering the show and
Mm,
just going through life and considering the patterns. We all have patterns. We have these
mhm,
regular and consistent, including me. And like this is along the lines of that, when we have our negative thought stream and how I in my work, I do it all the time and I love what I do, so I call it work, but it's not really work for me. It's just my life and my all my interactions. I find that negative thought cycles really put us in these hellacious lifetime things, and so it's healthy to like rescript the mindset or pay attention to the mindset. And
mhm.
even if you're just like, okay, we're just gonna play it and like pretend that our thought patterns really can they really do have an effect on our life.
They do. They absolutely do, and that's why I haven't literally wasted time. It has felt that way, but I've learned something in every moment. I'm pretty sure.
Well, it's funny because I get caught up too, and I've been in this sort of cycle where sometimes I'm just gonna like, ugh, and I feel like there's moments like it's been an interesting thing. I'll come home and I'll just kind of like hop on Facebook for a minute and just kind of like Facebook for a
What's
minute.
going on in the
And
world?
I do it before I
Well,
go into my house.
not really the world.
No, but it is an interesting there's a pulse, there is a certain
Yeah.
connection to a pulse of people and shows, but I do it before I go into my house, and to consider that in some way, I think maybe it's like a unwinding
Mhm.
of releasing some of the energy that I may or may not pick up through what I do for a
Mhm.
living, and then just release it, and then go into the house without that extra stuff. So I could consider it
Yeah.
wasting, or I'll just make it sound really good, like, "Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm decompressing."
You know, I love that you said that. I've used those as excuses. B but whatever. Whatever works. Just to make myself feel better for wasting time.
Well, I see, I'm all about the feel better. I wanna feel better
Heck
about my
yeah, so
life
do
and
I.
my stuff.
Totally. Okay. We can't have a show of all
No,
laughter.
it probably won't carry as well if we're talking about so,
AJ.
consider the patterns, like paying attention to the patterns, um, and whether or not patterns need to be I think this comes I've been also doing a bit of I pick up I'm sure as the listeners do, these little nuggets or these
Mhm.
keys or these stuff from the different guests that we have on.
Mhm.
And last year we had a couple of guests throughout the months that did ancestral healing.
Mhm.
I'm just here to tell you it's a thing.
It is,
It
definitely.
is there is something we carry 7 generations in our DNA, and our DNA is like the book of life. So, what our ancestors went through is carried in our genetic material,
Mhm.
and I've been my family, we've been going through some cleanup, and I it's not fun
Mm.
to have to go through these periods where there's seems to be a lot of turmoil. Um, but we do have some language between some of us family members that say, this is necessary. So we are in this particular time with these family members doing calling to do, to interact the way that my family's interacting to do this cleanup.
Mm-hmm.
Call attention to it. We've been years in not handling some certain situations, and so there's this attitude of gratitude to say, okay, this is a difficult situation, and
Mm-hmm.
it's beneficial that we're in this situation, and certain family members get called in because they have the ability, even if they get under your skin. Like some family members get under your skin, but then sometimes you need someone under your skin to motivate you,
True.
move things along.
Yeah.
So there's that
Push some
like,
buttons, move some
uh,
energy.
and there are these patterns and personalities in family dynamic,
Mm.
and I'm sure as you understand, it is hard to be the one that breaks the pattern. And in my life, I was one. I'm sort of a radical. I did some radical things throughout my life, even though I don't really look like a radical. On the outside, I am kind of a little bit of a radical.
Yeah, you did what you wanted to do. And a lot of people don't know how to do that until they're much
Oh,
older,
right.
if ever.
It's amazing when I look back and go, I don't know how I was able to do that,
But you did.
but I did. I was like, wow, I was born to do this stuff that I'm doing, and it feels really good.
Yeah.
I'm so thrilled with my life.
Good. I love that. I shouldn't say should. We ought to all be thrilled with our lives. Life is thrilling, right?
Yes, and I'm happy to not be as caught up in some of the chaos that I see others get in. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay, I'll take my little problems that I have." I'm like, "Oh, I'm okay. I can
Yeah.
handle this. I
Yeah.
can handle this. I've been handling things all along the way," and so,
Yeah.
yeah. How's your
I
week
think
been?
it's good. I love that you're so happy.
I'm just, like,
You
patting
know,
myself on the back for a
yeah.
minute,
Well,
going, "I've done some work."
I was just about to say, it really comes down to the amount of work you've done and the awareness that you have. I have been messy before, but I feel like those times that I have been messy, it's because I didn't know how to cope or how to get through the experience. Like I wasn't taught those tools.
Right,
And so I was like a baby of sorts as an adult learning to navigate through different experiences and emotions and once that I had all of these tools and I just continually add them, nothing is too hard anymore, right? I mean, there are challenges, you get through them because you have the tools, but and there are things that are unfortunate that happen that are just part of life,
yeah,
like loss and death and change big changes that are outside of you that affect you, like things like that. But once you have the tools, the blows aren't as big.
right.
They're not as hard. They don't hurt as bad.
Mm-mm.
And I love that. We were talking about this before the show, like how grateful for the growth, like where I was 7 years ago, even 8 years ago.
Right.
Well, it's been almost 8 years ago. Just the difference,
Yeah,
and like even going back a few years before that, having my NDE and then um being like totally lost in this world to where I am now, where I am certain of who I am and what my purpose is. It's just, you know, I know so many people are struggling right now,
yeah.
and they have been for a few years, right? I
Mhm.
mean, for 4 years for sure. And I just want to hug them and tell them, it works out in the end. It always works out in the end. And you can't see that in those
No.
moments. But I think having the reminder, even from a friend or a stranger or anyone, just like, hey, you know what? You're going to be stronger when this is done, will go a long way for them because they're seen and they're validated in what they're going through, being challenged or whatever that looks like. And I just think I know those people who said those cliche things to me, like really irked me in the moment,
Yeah.
but they weren't wrong.
No.
They weren't wrong. And so, yeah, if people are going through heavy stuff, dude, just hold on. Like it does get better. It really does get better. And then, yeah, if your toolbox is empty, go find you some tools. There's just so many things that resonate with different people for different reasons, and they all look and feel differently. And something may be for you that's not for someone else, vice versa, et cetera, et cetera. Like just find the things that make you feel better and
Right.
with no judgment. Like if you want to color, go ahead and freaking color. If that makes you feel, it makes me feel better. I like coloring. But things like that, like we were just talking about how far we both have come and like how things have just changed so much. And so I will cry if I think about the amount of gratitude for this journey. It's just so breathtaking. All of it in all the ways that it is. Like I'm so grateful for the dark times.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for the now, the living in the now times. Like it's just overwhelming and I love it and I'm just full of gratitude. Anyways, my week, to answer your question, sometimes you just feel like you're on fire. Like I told myself at the beginning of the year, this year was going to be the year I worked on procrastination. I'm really good at being like, I'll do that later. It's not that important right now. Maybe I'll get to that this week. And then I'm like, I'll push it to next week. And it just leaves me with like piles of whatever, literal or figuratively, just piles of stuff everywhere. And I'm not a clutter person. So then I get anxious and frustrated and stressed. And I'm like, I can't create anything in this nonsense.
Mess.
So the beginning of the year, like I have been kicking ass at the procrastination part. Like, I'm like, hello, procrastination. Today is not your day. I have things
Oh,
to do.
I love that.
Yeah. But also like also the balance of, you know, kicking butt and resting, right? Because I need to rest. And I'm really good at going until I don't have a choice but to rest. So I've like been navigating this new balance of learning my design and who I am and what I need. And it's working really well for me. And I've become more productive, more creative. I have more room to um, manifest, more room to like create ideas and, possibilities. And it just feels really good. So today, like, just I'm an old school. I keep a day planner. It is my brains. I write everything in it. If I lost it, I would be screwed. It's with me everywhere I go. Everyone knows if I have a black book, that's because I put everything in it. Anyway, so um, one of my favorite things is to make checklists. Like every time I think of something I need to do or create or whatever that looks like, then I can go and check it off. And it's really satisfying. So I filled up a whole page at the beginning of the year and I did my last check mark on that page and started a new one. So I was like, this
That's
was like for
super.
my first 6 months, my
What?
goals for the, yeah.
Not even 2 months in, you've got 6 months worth of
Girl,
stuff
I'm not messing
accomplished.
around this year.
No.
I said that. This year
I
is
love
the
it.
year to get things done. And that's how my week's been. It's just felt like I've got this really great balance of chilling out and I've also have gotten a lot done. And it feels good to get a lot done. Um More than I normally do and having time to rest
You're
because I'm
efficient.
being more clear.
Oh, yeah.
There's just so much that goes into it, like,
Oh, yeah.
and conditioning, talk about conditioning growing up. Like I was always conditioned, like everything has to look and be a certain way, right? The house has to be clean and I've got to clean it all because that's my chore and the pressure. Nothing against my parents. Please don't get me wrong on that. That's how
All
they taught
parents
me.
do
And
it.
I'm grateful. Yeah, all parents do it, but I'm grateful for learning those types of responsibility.
Right.
No doubt. I get the lesson. but I do that in my life, like, I can't go rest because there's dishes in the sink,
Mm.
or I can't just cook dinner and walk away, I've gotta clean it up, and then I better sweep and mop because while I'm at it, and everything has to be look and be a certain way before I can chill out, right?
Ah,
And I've let a lot of that go through the years, but especially this year, I was like, "Eh, it'll be more efficient and more use better use of my time if I focus on that project tomorrow with the other project that's similar to that project, and I go just, like, utilizing my time better, not giving myself guilt trips for it not looking and being a certain way."
see that negative mindset.
Yeah, no, for real. It's a thing.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. So, why do I always have to sing everything? We know I can't sing, and I'm always, like, trying to sing.
It's just part of the way.
Yeah,
And it
so I've rambled on a lot. Blah, blah, blah. Next, how are you feeling about tonight's show?
well, I was commenting earlier today that I really haven't ever had any, I'm excited to hear because this is, what she has going on with her background. I don't have experiences in common with that, but that's the fun thing about listening to other people's stories,
Yeah.
is that, I get to learn and grow through other people and their experiences, and,
Mhm.
um, we just have our guests that are talking about healing and the the growth that happens from difficult things. This is a common thing in our guest, and it is enjoyable. So tonight's show, I'm looking forward to learning more
Yeah.
about her experience. What about you?
Oh, same. So, with complete respect to her experience, right? Because I can't even imagine what she's gone through from
Right,
what little I know so far.
right,
I'm fascinated with this topic. That that's one thing that drew me to KGRA even before my show got picked up here. I my show then, our show now, let's
right.
just make that clear. I I loved hearing about others' experiences. Having an NDE, I was seeking other people who had similar experiences to mine, which led me to humans having non-human contact, right? Because they're all in the same group. And so listening to this type of experience for me, as much as I'm familiar with it, I'm also super fascinated with it. I'm still blown away, right? Because
Yeah,
we are told all the time, what you saw is not real. That's not real. That didn't happen. We've been smoke screened. We've been lied to. And so you have all of that going on. And then you have people who are brave enough to come out and say, that's not entirely correct. I've
right,
had this experience. And there are thousands of people who have thousands. And more are coming to the surface with their story, feeling more comfortable to share. And I don't want to celebrate their experience because some of them are very traumatic, but
right,
I want to celebrate them as humans for like being bold and brave enough to come and talk about something that doesn't get talked about.
right. On the
Also,
fringe, but
I was
becoming
gonna say
more common.
also, it is more and more talked about, but we still aren't being told the truth, right?
Not sure
It's
that
more in the mainstream, but we're still not being told the truth.
right,
So when people like we have here on the show come onto our show and other guests on other shows on the station because it is a popular topic, come and share their experiences. Like first, way good job. So grateful. Like, seriously, the courage to talk in that
yeah,
way.
right,
It's just really awesome. I'm so grateful. And second, I'm also so fascinated. Tell me more.
yes,
Tell me more. I want to know all the things to your comfort level, right? Because there is truth in all of these stories.
right. And from all the stories, you start to lay out a picture and get like a
Mhm.
bigger jigsaw sort of puzzle,
Mhm.
um, landscape of these different aspects of
Yeah.
the mysteries of this planet and people's different experiences.
Right. I'm really looking forward to our time with her. And also, she works with LA Marzulli. I met him once. Such a beautiful human being. So I want to hear about her experiences with him as well. But we have to take a break, which means also when we get back, our guest will be joining us. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Yeah, we're back.
We are back. I'm like, they gave us a new ad set tonight, you guys. A little shorter. A little shorter on the tail end of that. I
We're
wasn't
like,
quite
"And
expecting to
we're
be
here."
back. I'm just hanging out over here telling Natalie how much I love her. Hi,
Oh,
everyone. Welcome back to Soul Wanderings. I am AJ,
and I am Natalie.
and we're your hosts. And we are so delighted to be here with you tonight and our new guest.
I know. We have some amazing guests so far this year.
Yeah, they I think anyone who has the courage to come on a show and share their truth is amazing. When people say, "Will you be a guest on my show?" I'm always like, "Are you sure you want that?" Do you know what you're signing up for?
They're like, "Yes, we want you."
Anyway, moving on. I am really excited. I think I've made that clear. Our show tonight will have you on the edge of your seat, I'm pretty sure. It's one of our most favorite topics discussed here on the station. Tonight, we welcome Karin Wilkinson to the show. She's the author of Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest, which is a true story of her life experiences with non human entities. Hello, Karin. Welcome to Soul Wanderings.
Hi, AJ and Natalie. How are you? I'm so happy to be here with you tonight.
Thanks. I'm great. I think Natalie's
I'm doing really well, yes.
Good, good.
Thanks for asking. Yeah,
Oh,
we're excited to have you as well. Thank you for taking the time to come on to Soul Wanderings and share your human experience with us. I don't know how long you've been hanging out in the back, but it does take a lot of courage to come out and talk about the things that you're going to be sharing with us. So thank you.
well, thank you. Now, long enough to hear you say some beautiful, lovely, wonderful things, and I just appreciate that so much. You have no idea. It is hard. It's very difficult to share
Mhm.
these types of things, but it's also been extremely satisfying because I've gotten to talk to so many amazing people and share with so many amazing people and hear their amazing stories. And for me, having that camaraderie and that friendship and
Mhm.
being able to share and say it's okay to talk about these things and it's okay to talk about them with me has been amazing. That's my favorite part. So lovely to be here with you guys tonight and do exactly that. I'm very excited.
Thank you. Yes, the connection, right? The connection is so important,
Yes.
especially when you're connecting with other humans that have had similar experiences to yours. I'm sure
Oh,
that can be very comforting.
absolutely. Absolutely. I heard you mention my friend Eli Marzulli, and yeah, he's an amazing, wonderful, beautiful person, beautiful soul. And he's the first person I shared this with and never expected to share this with anyone. And excuse me, my ear is popping for some reason. Um, and when I first shared with him, he was so kind and accepting and understanding, and I didn't. It had nothing to do with him, but I didn't expect to ever receive that kind of a response from anyone. Period.
Mm.
And it was that kindness and support and acceptance. In my book, I dedicated it to him, and I said to L.A. Marzulli, who listened and is always there for me because he did. He just listened, and
Yeah.
that was so important. And I am grateful that I get to now do that for others. I can just listen. I'm not a therapist. I can't necessarily change anything or make anything better, but I can listen
Mhm.
and I can
Neither
say
can
I
a
understand.
therapist.
I'm sorry.
And neither can a therapist. They can't change or make
True, but
but
that's
to
true.
listen and help you walk through it.
Right. Sometimes you just need someone to talk to. And that was a big part of doing this for me was to make it okay to have these conversations, these really difficult conversations that the public in general has said, oh, no, you can't talk about that. No, that's too weird. That's too fringy. That makes you a crazy person. I'm like, we're not crazy people. These things happen to so many people, normal people, everyday people, wives and mothers and sons and daughters and men and women, everyone, every walk of life. There's no discrimination on these types of abductions and these types of experiences. It just happens to everyone. So I'm again grateful to be here and grateful that I was able to share that story, and that's how the book came about. That when I talked to LA that first time, that interview ended up being kind of the center point for his fourth movie in the UFO series, Disclosure series on UFO abductions. And from there, I started talking to people and realized I need to write this down and share the rest of it and make a better pathway to be able to reach out to people and share more with people. And that's where we are today.
Awesome. Do you feel the more you share your stories, other people feel comfortable in sharing theirs? And so it creates a chain effect, and that's why more and more people are sharing their experiences?
Yeah, I mean, I can't take accountability or responsibility for making everyone comfortable sharing those stories, but I certainly do think it helps. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yes, because just knowing that you're not alone and that there are a lot of people out there who will accept you where you are
Mhm.
and understand that you're telling the truth and that we don't have anything to gain by sharing these stories. Mostly we have something to lose. So to find a safe place to share is just so important. And then those people will end up sharing with other people and creating just these networks of people who are talking and sharing and doing more and more of that. So yeah, I hope that it's been helpful
Yeah.
to people and helping to start more of these conversations. Absolutely.
Oh, I'm sure that it has. I love the ripple effect that takes place when we share our truth. You see
Yes.
it in all circles, right? And how that affects the people around you.
Right.
Um, Before we go down your journey of your experiences, um, well, I know they're a lifetime of experiences, but let's get a feel for you first, Karen. So, like, as far back as you wanna go, like, what was your life like? And then when did these experiences start happening for you?
Yeah, these experiences started from my earliest memories. So from as young as I can remember, there was never a time when they weren't coming for me, when they weren't taking me,
Oh,
when I wasn't
wow.
being abducted. Um, but the reason I waited so long to share was because I had a near-death experience about 7 or 8 years ago, and the events leading up to that were extremely traumatic. And I did PTSD therapy after that, which in turn helped me deal with the lifetime of stressful experiences.
Mm,
And that led me to be able to realize, hey, I can talk about this. And I need to talk about this. And the near death experience was just one of the most incredible experiences of my life. I mean, I write about that. There's a whole section in the book just about that because it was so impactful and so important to everything else in my life story at that point. So that's kind of how it started.
that's a lot.
But I can talk about that
It
part
just
more.
started. Yeah, I mean, share whatever you wanna share, but also an NDE is a whole other experience in and of itself, right? But is
Yes.
you were having memories of experiences all the way back as far as you can remember.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, when I was really little, my first actual abduction scenario memories are around 5 or 6 years old, which is sort of when our minds start to hold on to those concrete memories. But before that, I have memories of being about 3 years old at a family graduation, refusing to go to my father's family members because they looked so similar to these Nordic entities that I was already in contact with, that were already scaring me, that were already a part of my life. And no one could understand why that I would go to anyone else in the family, but not them. And I still remember the feeling of looking at those family members as a tiny little kid, before kindergarten, pre-K, all that.
Wow.
And I just didn't have, as a little kid, you don't have the ability to differentiate between them. And I didn't have a vocabulary for it once, when I could speak. So, because back in the 60s and 70s, everyone wasn't talking about aliens and UFOs. We didn't have names for them. We didn't have vocabulary like grays and flying saucers and things like that. It might have been out there, but it certainly wasn't mainstream or available to a 5-year-old.
Mhm.
So those are, the early memories. And when I was about 5 or 6 years old, I would at nighttime look for places to hide because I thought maybe, I could find a place where they couldn't find me. And my sister would be like, "You can't hide. They can see us from outside the house. They can see through the house wherever we are." So here's little kids having these weird conversations about these entities. We don't know what to call them. We just know they're the ones that come and take us or take me. I'm not going to speak for other members of my family or other people, but the ones that would come to take me. And I didn't know what to call them, you know. But I knew I wanted to hide. I thought if I could find a big enough suitcase and zip it up, you put it under the bed, get in there, zip it up, maybe that would work. Things like that, just trying to get creative. But I could never stop it. And typically they would show up at night. If I was sharing a room with someone, that person would just be switched off. There'd be no way to wake them up, no way to rouse them. Nothing I did would wake up anyone in the house. And they would show up. I would things like outside, if we were in the countryside, the crickets and cicadas would get real quiet. And I would just feel a change in the energy, a change in the room. I would feel just a fear wash over me. Sometimes I would wet the bed because I was so scared.
Mm.
And I would see, maybe sometimes I would be in the corner of the room or just at the foot of the bed, different places in the room. At least two, if not more, of what people term a typical gray alien. They were short, about 3 feet tall, with the big bulbous heads and the black screen, just stationary eyes. Um, Very thin, brittle, frail looking. They didn't smell very good. Some of them smelled really putrid, like a sulfur, dead animal kind of feces, rotten kind of smell. And some of them didn't smell bad at all. Some of them smelled worse than others. And at that point, they would levitate. They would put me in a state of like waking paralysis. You've heard of sleep paralysis. This would be more of a state of waking paralysis because I was wide awake. But I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I would get levitated, literally just up off the bed and up through a ceiling or through a closed window. And I know that sounds crazy, but I would see every detail in that ceiling, like the little lines on wallpaper or the little brown curls at the edges of the wallpaper or the bugs in the light fixture or the way the screen wasn't really squares. A lot of them were bent or broken or what have you. And I would just feel this low hum that would just get lower and lower, like a vibration, like almost holding on to a speaker, but without the noise kind of thing. Just my whole body would be like, feel like it was going into a million bazillion little pieces. And at that point, normally I would be just switched off, like into a sleep state. And the next thing I know, I'd wake up somewhere else. Sometimes on an exam table, sometimes at this bank of elevators that we would get in that would take us down and down and down. And then there were what I used to call the sideways elevators, because when I was little, cars, trains, everything made noise, right? And these were silent, but they went side to side. Some of them went up at an angle or down at an angle, but they had benches. And sometimes I'd wake up in there. It was always cold. I'd often fall asleep holding my little blanket as tight as I could, because I knew if they took me and I was holding it tight enough that maybe it would go with me, which it did sometimes, and I'd have that so I wouldn't be as cold. And then different things would happen depending on, which time it was. And I don't remember every single time I was taken, but I remember quite a few times. And I've never had any hypnosis or anything. These are just memories I've always had. I don't know why I remembered, but I've spoken to a lot, and I mean many, many people who, the same as I have, just never had any trouble remembering these things that happened. So I think it's different for everybody, but I always had these memories. And when we were done with whatever they were doing that particular time, a lot of times it was, medical things that I didn't understand, and they certainly didn't take the time to explain. Maybe a big machines that were above me that I didn't know what they did. There were sometimes needles that were put into my neck or my chest or different areas of my body, and just various examination type things. And when I would we would be done, I would be back in a sleep state and generally wake up sometimes in my bed, sometimes somewhere else in the house with no explanation. Sometimes my pajamas would be on inside out or like in a whole nother part of the house. You know, my parents are like, why are you taking your pajamas off at night and leaving them in the other room? And I'm like, I'm not, but they there's not a good explanation. Sometimes when I would wake up, I would go in their room and sleep under their bed just because I thought maybe that would be a safe place for the rest of the night. It was just, I just never could figure out how to feel safe. I tried to talk about it too. I tried to tell, my parents, I tried to tell kids at school, I tried to tell anyone really who would listen. And one night they showed me what we call a screen memory. So I was taken, and instead of being taken to the facilities that they would take me to, and these facilities appeared to be underground, just FYI, just
I
about
was
that.
gonna ask that because you said elevators that went down,
Yeah.
down, 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 and down. And I've
So
watched so many shows where they talk about like this Middle Earth situation. So
yeah, I think there's a lot going on underneath our feet that we're not really aware of. I mean, you think about how
I
deep our
believe
oceans
it.
are, and no one really gets a good sense for how
Yeah.
deep they really are. But how
Mhm,
many, Empire State Buildings you could fit just in some of those trenches is crazy, dozens.
mhm.
So we don't know what's under our feet. No one's really gone down that deep. And, what we are taught is assumptions. It's not because someone actually went and looked.
Right. Right.
But I can say from my experience, these facilities that I was taken to were massive. There were like football stadiums and airports and everything all together in one, just so big, and then just mazes of hallways and stairways and elevators and rooms and just so much stuff. And if I had to sit down and try to draw it, there's no way I could, because there were just so many different areas and places, and I never knew how one connected to the other. And that's probably on purpose. If we're confused, we're not going to go trying to find somewhere else to go.
Mhm.
But and I did have a handler who was with me too, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, so I won't get too much into that yet. But um, so yeah, I was trying to talk about it, but again, I just didn't have the vocabulary. I was talking about, they keep taking me, they keep doing this. And one night, during the abduction, they took me and we walked into the backyard of my grandparents' farm. And I'm outside. I mean, I can feel the grass under my feet. It's cold, it's prickly, it's wet, and it's nighttime. And there's this a clothesline that goes down the middle of the yard. And then what I'm seeing at this point is what we call a screen memory. So showing you something that's not real, but it looks very real, like we can do today with virtual reality. Like if you've ever put those goggles on and everything's like, whoa, I feel like I'm really there. That's how it was. But back then there was no such thing. So I had nothing to compare that to. I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know it wasn't real. But they showed my family being walked out, parents, siblings, grandparents, that kind of thing. And they sprayed something on the backs of their necks and told me that I couldn't talk about this with anyone, and that I had to be good. And if I did, that they would hurt my family, and that they would be beheaded. And they showed me them being beheaded in front of me as just a little kid. I was like 6 years old. And I kind of had a little nervous breakdown after that. Went to school, and they found me huddled in the corner of a bathroom stall, just holding onto my knees and rocking, and I just wouldn't talk. I wouldn't get up. So they called my mom, and she came and got me, and I tried to talk a little bit, but I was afraid to say anything at this point. So she took me to the doctor, and he examined me and said I had, some strange marks and bruises on my body, that but that whatever was going on, I would forget because I was little, and to just let it go. And, this is back in the 60s and 70s, so things were really different then. Today, maybe that would get more attention. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know.
That's just a wild response to me.
Yeah, but it was commonplace then. That was not an unusual response. I know.
Just forget about it. It's just ignore it and it will go away.
Yeah, she'll
Well,
forget.
it's
She'll
right.
be
That sounds
fine.
about right.
Well, it's true. It is a certain human, especially doctors or people that they're like, I don't know how to pinpoint this at all. And so
So
it's
it's
so
just not.
mysterious. It's
Yeah.
Mhm. And that's kind of been the response to all of the crazy things medically that have happened across my lifetime that are related into this. I've had a lot of that. Well, we're not sure. We really don't have an explanation. And that's kind of been the case for my whole life, for most of the things that have happened. But after that, I kind of gave into it. And I think that's where I just dissociated from it and kind of left that part of my life over here and the regular part of my life on this side, and didn't let those two cross. You know what I mean? I just learned in my head to keep it split, because if I thought about it at all, I wouldn't be able to live any kind of a normal life. And I realized at that point there was nothing I could do. And I wasn't the only person there. I wasn't the only child there. I saw other children. I was put in rooms with other children where we would just sit at a table, and there were coloring books and there were weird shaped blocks and there were other toys and things and I don't know if we were being observed. I'm not sure why I was in the room with them. Some of them were very messed up. Some of them clearly had disabilities of some sort. But being a little kid, I, had no way of getting any specifics like that. But so it was traumatic. It was very traumatic, and it affected me my whole life. And this just continued on throughout my lifetime. The types of things that happened changed as I got older, but when you start as a young child, you're kind of groomed into accepting a narrative, accepting what's happening, accepting what's going on. And we live in a society today where children are bought and sold like cattle every day. So it's not something that's so hard to fathom that could happen, and that a child would just figure out how to live with it. And it was kind of like being in an abusive relationship in a way, because there were moments of, here, this is going to be fun for you, because the rest of it really isn't. You know what I mean? Just to kind of keep me on the hook. And so I definitely developed a Stockholm syndrome type relationship with the entities that I was with over time.
Were they the same entities coming every single time, or were they different?
Now, that's a really good question. So the entities that would show up in my room or wherever I happened to be at the time I was taken, those were always the little grays that you hear a lot about. And those, I believe, are like an avatar, kind of a meat suit, kind of skins, a biologically created construct utilized to go get people. Just because these weren't like anything else I had seen. They didn't match up to all the other entities that I had seen. Had mouths that moved and eyes that moved and facial expressions, and they were all unique and different from each other, just the way we are from each other, except for these little grays. They were like little cookie cutters of each other, and they didn't speak. Their mouths didn't open, their eyes didn't move. They were really frail and brittle, some smelled bad, and eventually realized these are like just little avatar robot type things that I believe could house AI, could house another entity, could house a demonic entity, whatever, and over a lifetime of being around them, I definitely, the government even in a report recently reported the ones that they had found had no lymph systems and no digestive systems. I'm like, well, that fits right into everything I've said about them all along. So I think they're useful in that if something like that gets caught, all they're going to get is an empty suit,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
whatever's in it can go. And so they're not losing anything. And then the worker bees are the ones that are just doing the grunt work of getting people, without having to deal with the ramifications of possibly being captured or seen. So But then as far as that goes, there are a lot of other entities, which I know after the break I can totally get into and
Yeah.
talk about those a lot more.
Yeah. We'll take a break here in just a few minutes.
Okay.
But I've heard a lot of stories. We even have interviewed several people who have had some type of contact,
Mhm.
and the descriptions that you're giving and the experience is like nothing I've heard from anyone else. People have their stories, right? But the
Mhm.
detail that you remember, obviously you had a lifetime of experiences to remember that sort of detail, but I'm just in awe right now of
Oh,
what you endured and what you experienced, and just through all of that trauma you're able to even remember that amount of detail.
yeah. I think there's a lot that I've forgotten. I know there is. And I know that there's a lot that I have blocked, and I am okay with that. And I
Mhm.
don't even try to bring that to the surface. There are still a lot of details that I know are there, but I don't focus or spend any time on it because it's not going to help me. It's not going to help anyone else to trigger someone else by sharing that. And so I don't need to bring hurtful things to other people or to myself. I don't feel like that's going to help any. And it's taken a lot of healing and a lot of work to get to the point where I can share this.
Mm.
And I'm so blessed that I can. But there have been a lot of difficult days and a lot of trauma and a lot of times where I didn't want to keep going,
Yeah.
where I didn't want to go on. And where if it wasn't for my faith, my higher power, my creator, I would not be here because I didn't want to. It was too much. It
Mhm.
was just constant overload. When you feel like you're running a marathon every second of every day, it's impossible to keep that up.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I've been through trauma in my lifetime. Everyone has, right? But
Right.
I think about just how grounded you are and able to talk about the experience. Like that is just there obviously has been a lot of healing that has taken place.
There has, and
Kudos
there's been
to
a lot
you.
of talking about it too,
Yeah.
because
Which
the
is
more you talk about it, the easier it is to
yeah.
share. Trust me, the first few interviews, I cried a lot, and I still go after interviews, and I spend a little bit of time in my, you know,
Yeah.
just having my, okay, breathe. Okay, it's okay. You're
You're
safe now.
safe. Yeah.
Yeah. And knowing that and having that faith and knowing that I'm safe now
Mhm.
is what gets me through it. But I still cry often in the middle of an interview too. I have my tissues right here because there are a lot of
Yeah.
things in here that bring up, it is very emotional. But please, my lack of crying right now is just because I do get used to it, and I know that I'm going to do some good by sharing this,
Mhm.
and that makes it worth it.
Yeah.
That makes it okay, because you can get through hard things, impossible things. People do
Mhm.
it every day. I'm no different, and I'm not any more special than anyone else. Um, we are just we are exposed to difficult things all the time, and so
Mhm.
many people have so much in their lives that we don't even know. You know,
Yeah. It's true. It's definitely true. But also it takes a choice whether you're going to become a better version of yourself from the experience or not.
yes, absolutely.
And, congrats to you
Oh, thank you, and
for
you as well.
choosing for choosing that. I think it's so beautiful. I love success stories. I love them.
Me
I wanna eat
too.
them up for breakfast. Alright, everyone, stay close. We're gonna hear the rest of Karen's experiences. Well, most of them. We gotta save some for you to read the book.
That's
We'll
right.
be right back.
Oh, look.
Hello, Wanders. Welcome back to Soul Wanderings Live every Wednesday night, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, here on KGRA Digital Broadcasting, where you can join us at live.kgradb.com or any Facebook Rumble pages under KGRA Digital Broadcasting. However, KGRADB.com, the live feature, is fairly new, and we're trying to get people to come on over to the broadcasting station
Join
and
the club.
yes, do the live chat. I hang out there. No one else is hanging out there with me. But also, If you are, you're just not saying anything. Say hello. Say hello in the chat. Also, um, we have our shows live on video, audio. You can stream the audio anytime after we air live. If you guys want to watch a replay on the video, you'll need to become a member to support the station and to support our show. And you can do that by signing up. We have a promo code. Use the code WANDERER for 30% off your membership. You can get a free 7-day trial. You can get a monthly subscription or an annual subscription, all very affordable. All help the station keep going so we can talk about these amazing topics, all of the things that we talk about here on our show and all of the other shows, which allow us to find our people. Find our people, you guys. That's so important. Anyways, thank you for those who have already signed up, who are a member, and even those who aren't and just show up every week and watch us live. We really do appreciate the support. We're grateful and we're so happy to be here. Tonight, we are hanging out with our guest, Karin Wilkinson, and she is the author of Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest, which is a book about her life experiences with non human entities. Um, you've come out and you shared your story. What made you decide to write the book?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I decided to write the book because after I shared my experiences with L.A. Marzulli and the movie on UFO abductions came out, people started wanting to talk to me about my experiences. And there was so much more to share. And at that point, I started writing for L.A. Marzulli's monthly newsletter. And he encouraged me to continue and to write the rest of my story, that because we hadn't really covered it all, in our short interview, which was about 45 minutes maybe, and just kind of scratched the surface. So that started that process, and it was really, really quick how it happened. It's very easy to write the truth, and it's very easy to just write some things that happened, and the book just came very quickly, and it just came out this past October, so it's only been a couple of months, and but that's kind of where the inspiration came from. I was just so honored that he wanted to publish it, that he loved it, and it brought us here where we are today. So I've had the honor of going around with him to a couple of conferences, meeting some people, talking to people about the book, and just meeting people through social media and through interviews on my website. And it's just been a great experience.
I love when people decide to write their stories. Well, right? Because books are awesome.
Yes.
Yes.
So I do have
And you have so much support with LA. That's great. Go ahead,
Oh,
Natalie.
absolutely.
I have a question for you, and it's just tagging into what you were saying just before the break.
Mm-hmm.
So you said that your faith keeps you solid, and it's a grounding stone for you, your faith. Not exact words, but so I'm curious how you is it a conflict to have these extraterrestrial or these experiences from these other life forms
Mm-hmm.
and have a connection with the higher power? How did you come to terms with it in
Yeah,
that arena?
that's a great question. I had grown up going to church, but it was just kind of, get up, dress nice, go be quiet, learned about Noah, came home, nothing really concrete, nothing with any meat in it. And when I was in my late teens, early 20s, one of my roommates introduced me to more of the Christian Bible, and I really kind of found some faith and some footing in that and fell away from it. And but I understood at that point that we all had a creator, a higher power. And once I got to a certain point in this process, it was after my near death experience, I realized that, it was such a beautiful experience, and so incredible. And I realized, wow, God is still with me, never left me. even though I've kind of been ignoring him. And I realized, hey, these guys have the same creator I do. And when I confronted them with that knowledge, they acknowledged that and they backed down and they had to leave me alone because I'm like, I just, it was like I was given this amazing gift of understanding, oh, wait a minute, we both have the same creator. We are both created by the same entity. We are both part of the same, universe, part of the same um, community, if you will, and we're just different. We were created for this earth by God. And then that just really changed my views of it. And I don't want to get too religious or anything like that because I'm not on anyone, but my faith is very important to me. And I respect everyone for their faiths and for their belief systems. And I think that's important to do because we can't push anyone into to following our path. We all have our own paths. So I'm not going to ever try to do that. But what I will do is say, if someone's being taken against their will or someone is being terrorized by these entities, because I can't call entities that are kidnapping little children or raping women or taking fetuses, which are things that happen to me, benevolent. So the entities that I was involved with were not benevolent beings. However, I have had entities who were benevolent beings in my life and they were amazing. And I can talk about that as well. But for these entities, they weren't. And once I confronted them with the fact that, hey, if I call on Jesus, if I call on God and my creator, they have to obey him and not me. They don't have to obey me. These entities are far stronger, far superior, far better at a lot longer than I have. They're not, I am not their equal in any way. But we do have the same creator. And in that way, I was protected. And let me tell you, they backed down very quickly.
That's fascinating to me. So it's like that consciousness or that creator connection, it
Yes.
works for negative energies and for extraterrestrials too?
Right,
Oh my
because they were
that's
created by the same God
mm,
that I was. So, and you can call him whatever you want. For me, I call it God,
right.
and I believe in Jesus. And when I call on him, they are going like that.
Wow.
They respect it with amazing authority. They respect that authority. So it's been life changing for me and for many other people that I've talked to. So that helped a lot. So I don't know if that answers the
Oh,
question.
yeah.
Okay, okay, good. But I did have, after my near-death experience, I had when I was coming out of the surgery, I woke up in recovery, and I had a ton of doctors around me, which is not normal for waking up in recovery, but based on what happened, um, and I was in so much pain, I was screaming in pain, and they kept having to put me back under so I wouldn't have a stroke or a heart attack. And this went on for about 3 or 4 hours. And I remember at some point in that 3 or 4 hour time period, at the end of that, waking up and going, God, why did you put me back in this body to suffer? Just take me back, because it was so beautiful and so peaceful where I was. And all of a sudden I look up and there are these two beautiful young orderlies, these young men standing at the foot of the bed. They're dressed in scrubs and they're just standing at the foot of the bed. They've got, each one has a hand on one of my calves. And I look at them and I'm like, oh, you're so beautiful. You look like you could be two of my boys. I have a lot of kids. I adopt kids. I've got kids that call me mom, kids that I've taken in. So I'm like, you could look like you could be two of my boys. Oh, thank you for being here. Thanks for being with me. And they comforted me and they helped me through. And as soon as they were there, I didn't mind the pain and I was able to get through the recovery room process. And as I was being taken up to my hospital room, they stayed with me there at the foot of the gurney. And we got to the room and I grabbed my husband and my daughter-in-law's hand because they were always waiting for me after every surgery. And I said, you have to meet these boys. I wouldn't have made it through recovery without them because it had been such a grueling road. And they're like, okay, great. And I'm like, they're right here. And I looked and they weren't there. And I asked the nurse and the other orderly who were beside me what happened to the boys. And she's like, honey, what boys are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, the boys, they were with me all the way. They were in the elevator. They were coming down the hall with us. I was talking to them the whole time. She's like, oh, we wondered who you were talking to. There was no one there, honey. It's just been us, the whole time. No one else saw them but me, and I really think those were my benevolent, beautiful angels that they came to help. They didn't interfere. And when they were done, when they knew I was okay, they were gone. I
Mm.
looked all over the hospital for them, mind you. I looked everywhere, and I realized, wow, they didn't have any badges on. And
Mm.
they didn't have stethoscopes or anything. They were just in those blue scrubs, just beaming, just smiling,
Wow.
just calming and peaceful and loving. It was, and I don't even think they even spoke a word to me. It was amazing.
Mm.
So, um, it was amazing. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I'm so
Yeah,
grateful for those stories too.
yeah. I
You
had
brought
to
up
share the
your
good
and
ones
yeah, of course,
because I don't
definitely.
want it to all be negative. I mean, I know I've had some negative experiences, and there are some negative beings out there.
Yeah,
Um, but there are also some very beautiful, amazing, and wonderful, non-fallen, very good beings out there.
yeah.
So
I love that. Well, duality, right?
exactly,
You brought
exactly.
up your NDE a few times, and I know
Yes,
that's not the topic that we are discussing tonight because we're focusing on your experiences that you've written about in your book. But I know you've brought that up in your book also. Do they
yes.
tie together? Like, what's the story between the two? How does that work out for you?
Yeah, I think they do in a couple of ways. A, because it's what led me to those two, well, I call them angels, angelic beings that helped me through.
Mhm.
And B, it's what led me to get the PTSD therapy, which really helped me through. And it also, it's important because I wanted to let people know that there is more, that there is, I wanted there to be not just the negative, but also the positive in this book, because there is a lot of heavy stuff in here. And I
Mhm.
wanted to make sure that I shared some of the good and the light and the benevolent, the wonderful things as well. So, and that NDE, I can talk about that if you want. I love talking about it. It's one of my favorite things to talk about because it was such a good thing,
We
you
love
know.
talking
I
about
wouldn't
Eddies.
be sad if you wanted to share.
Good. Okay. I'm happy to talk about that anytime. Yeah, it was, how it happened was difficult because I was taken in for another surgery. I've had a lot of those, and my surgeon wasn't ready, so I was in the operating room earlier than I really should have been. And I just had 2 IV ports in. I wasn't hooked up to any machines or anything like that. So no monitors on me yet. And I'm just in the operating room. There were 2 nurses in there with me, and they were just, going through their checklists and what they had to do. And a woman comes in, short dark hair, white lab coat. I assume she was an anesthesiologist or an anesthetist nurse or something, but I don't know for sure. And she had a pocket full of syringes. She leaned over me and pulled one out and pushed it into my IV port. And I thought it was a sedative. And then she just turned and walked away. And I never saw this woman again. That's the last time I've ever seen her. I did try to find her, but just to let her know I was okay. I thought that was important, but never found her again. She gave me a paralytic. And as I lay there, it was almost instant. My body felt like it turned to cement. And
Mm.
that was very difficult for me because I had had so many experiences with these non-human entities where they would put me into a paralysis state. But this time I couldn't breathe and I was dying. And as I lay there on the table, I couldn't call for help. I couldn't let anyone know. And I just, in my head, I said, God, please help me. And I heard an audible voice in my head with like a voice, like it was outside my head because I could hear it, said, it's okay. You can let go now. And just like that, I was out of my body. And I just felt the most unbelievable, incredible peace and love.
Mm.
Unlike anything I've ever felt. We don't even have words that can describe it. Like being wrapped in the warmest, coziest, softest blanket ever, and that times 1,000. It was just the most beautiful, amazing feeling. And I noticed right away that I was still me. And that struck me so significantly somehow. I'm like, wow, I'm still me. Not the me that you see, but the me that's in here. And I was thrilled. I'm like, wow, we go on. This is so incredible. And I think that's so important to share with people because this is just the vessel that we're in right now. But it's not who we are. It's just what we look like right now. But doesn't have anything to do with who we are. Everyone spends so much time worrying about this. Well, yeah, we have to keep it healthy so that we have something to live in. But it's just temporary. It's amazing that this was created for us. I'm not diminishing it, don't get me wrong. But it's just temporary. This is
Yeah.
just a small piece of our time is spent, I think, in this body. So I was just I knew instinctively. It's like I knew everything I needed to know the second I was taken out of my body. I knew I was going to go back into it. There was never a choice of do you want to stay or go. It was stay here, stay close to my body. This is just going to take a little while.
Mhm.
And I wasn't scared or worried. And I watched, I could see things happening in the other rooms. The walls didn't stop me from seeing through. I could hear the other things happening in the other rooms. I watched the nurses as they figured out something was wrong with me. One of them looked at me. She's like, is she having an allergic reaction? And then the other one's like, I don't think she's breathing, and ran to get the doctor. And he came, she went in the other room and told him she thought something was wrong with me. And as soon as he turned that corner and saw me from the doorway of the little room he was in, because he was doing stuff with whatever they were going to put in my back, metal rods and stuff, um, he yells, bag her, bag her. And I watched them try to revive me, and more people start coming into the room. And I'm just watching. I was never scared or worried. Just still at peace, just absolute peace. And eventually, a man who was definitely an anesthesiologist um, tilted my head back and put a metal thing in my mouth to intubate me. And all of a sudden, I could taste the metal, and then I was back in my body, and everything went black. So that's the moment that it was like, okay, time to go back. I didn't have to do anything. It just happened. But there was no time passing. I had no sense of time passing. I could see and hear without eyes and ears. I could feel without, it's just, there was no sense of time and space. I mean, everything for us is so linear. Everything for us is so physical. Everything for us is so finite. And then we expect everything else in this world to fit in our little box that we live in. And it's not that way. You know,
Mhm.
this is just such a small part of it. And then when people have experiences with extraterrestrials, non human entities, angelic entities, whatever, we expect them to fit into this little box too. And
Mhm.
it doesn't work that way. And I know I'm preaching the choir here with the two of you because you understand this, I'm sure, but many people just don't. They just don't get that. And so they're like, well, how can that be? How can they take you through a ceiling or through a window or through a wall? Or how
Mhm.
can you be gone that long and no one notice? And, how can you be gone and all that happen and then you're back and it's only 2 minutes later? Well, we're
Mhm.
not dealing with the same things. They manipulate space, time, energy, and matter in ways we can't understand because we don't have those abilities.
Right.
So that is how it ties in, because it really cemented for me everything else that I had experienced my whole life, but it brought the positive side of it into my life and said, look, this there's good. There's so much good. And that's what helped eventually lead me back to my faith, my understanding my faith, leaning on my faith to get me through, to get me healing, and to stop these unwanted abductions from happening.
Thank you for sharing your experience with us. It is beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
And you talk about stopping these experiences that were happening to you. Let's go back a little bit.
Mhm.
Did you even know why they were happening to you? Or even any of the other children? You're all sitting in the same space. Like, why children and why were they happening?
Yeah. When I think that children are taken because if they are looking for genetic material, and especially if they're harvesting these entities genetic material from us, then the earlier that they find whatever genetic material they're looking for, if you're a match, then the longer they're going to have with you to harvest that. And the other thing is, children are very pliable. Children can be groomed to be a part of something, even if it's not something pleasant or something they would choose to be a part of. And for me, that was that process of grooming and teaching me what I was, expected, what was expected of me, and learning how to assimilate it into my life. So I'm living a normal life ish with a lot of emotional problems, but hiding those, and on the surface everything looks good and fine, but underneath it's not, and learning how to do that, how to live that kind of life. They always told me, oh, you're special, you're special, we need you, you're special, but they never said exactly why, right? And when I would be taken, and especially later on in life, there would be times when, there would be this place where this really big room where when I would get there, it was like kind of where the size of like a big airport or a stadium, and everyone would be coming into that same place. And I always remember, we're all walking in there knowing where we're going, but I had a handler, so I knew where he was. We hadn't like an imprint, like a knowing, so I knew where he was. I just instantly knew where to go to find him. I could just sense him. Um, but we're all walking around in like this brain fog. LA Marzulli likes to call it UFO brain fog. So you're not thinking clearly. You're not going, hey, I need to grab this person and talk to them and say, hey, where are you from? Or hey, why are we here? Or hey, what did they tell you? That you don't think clearly when you're in these situations. They have this way of just kind of scrambling your thoughts and your sense of logic. And so I never sat down and tried to talk with any of the people there, and plus there was always something going on. You're here for this purpose. Like there were these rooms where we go in and the whole room was just screens, all the walls, the ceiling. It was like going into a big movie theater, but the room was just screens, and they'd show us different things. Like sometimes one of them in particular I remember seeing often was the flooding. And we were watching just the waves come in and just flood everything. And they're like, this is what's going to happen. So if you don't cooperate, this is why we need your help. This is why we need your cooperation. This is why we need you to be here. And that sounds okay on the surface, but what does abducting me against my will or raping me or some of the other things that were happening to me have to do with stopping the earth from flooding? If you want to do that, why can't you go sit down with our world leaders and give them a checklist of some things they could do to fix this? So that's where it never quite clicked for me. I was always kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I never quite bought all of their excuses or all the story. But when I'd be in those rooms, there'd be other people. And sometimes it would be scary and I'd grab onto that person next to me, And to this day, I'll meet people and be like, do I know you? Do we know? Have we met? And it happens. And I'm like, I wonder, but you don't want to say that. I mean,
I think I know you from
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So,
a conversation starter.
That's
it
true.
really is. It really is. I'm hoping maybe someone will reach out to me and go, I do remember you from one of those, now that, and I'll get that moment where we recognize each other. But, your brain is in such a fog. It's hard to keep some of those things, some of those people, straight sometimes. But it's not all completely foggy. It's just that you're not making the rational choices you normally would.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? But yeah, so and there were people working there too. There were humans working alongside these different kinds of
I've heard
animals.
that.
Well,
Yeah,
are they human hybrids, or it's hard to know?
it's hard
Humanoid?
to know. I do know some of them had to actually be humans because I would hear them threaten them. Like there were certain times where they would use us being me or other abductees, and say, "You don't want this to happen to your wives, your daughters, your mothers, your friends, blah blah, whoever."
So they
You
were
know,
there against their own will?
yeah, I think what it seems to be is, and this is, they didn't ever. I never sat down with one of those people and said, "Why do you work here?" But what I am assuming, based on seeing them and hearing the threats that were lobbed against them, it makes sense to me now. I used to be very angry about this, but I have made peace with it. And because once I really sat down and thought about it, because I was like, why didn't those people help me?
Mm.
All these years, why was that happening? And then I realized, they probably had a good job and said, "Hey, you're doing so great. We're going to give you this super special clearance. Now sign this NDA. Now here we're going to put you in this special project. And then once you're in it, there's nothing you can do because they had families, they had loved ones that they were protecting,
Yeah.
right?" And so, and I heard those threats being made about, you can't, talk about this. And they used us, some of us abductees, to show them the bad things that could happen. And and
Sounds
that was
like a
very traumatic.
nightmare.
It was
Ugh.
terrible. So yeah, it was ugly. But so there were humans, and then some of them, oh, they absolutely could have been human hybrids. It's hard to
Mhm.
tell.
Yeah.
But there were also, everyone kind of thinks of aliens as these little cookie cutter entities that come out of a ship and they all look the same. And it wasn't like that at all. I mean, the little grays, yeah, they all looked the same. But the other ones on the ships, the regular grays, that I think those were modeled after, they all looked different, just the way we do. Some were taller, some were shorter, some were really big and really scary looking, and some looked almost feminine, and some looked very masculine, and they had facial expressions, and their eyes moved, and their mouths opened. They didn't talk, but everything was like mind speak. It wasn't verbal. Um, but clearly they could make some noises. Their mouths did open or do something with them.
Mhm.
And they didn't share. It's not like they sat me down and said, "Here's our plan. Here's all," and
This is
gave
what we're
me a
gonna
bunch of
do,
good information.
guys.
Not
Yeah.
a lot of mutual respect there, huh?
No, no, there really wasn't. Unfortunately, there was not. And I don't remember every time I was taken, and I don't remember everything that happened, and I'm okay with that. I'm not
Mhm.
interested in remembering every little thing, because I don't need any more trauma. What I have is enough
I was gonna say,
to
it sounds
share.
like you remember enough, and that is very traumatic all by itself, right?
Yeah, it
You
really was.
brought up, you had a handler, and you would talk about it some more later. Um,
Sure.
was it always the same handler, and what even is a handler?
Yes, that's a great question. Yes, it was. And the funny thing about that is, after I wrote about it, I've had so many people come to me, even while I was writing about it, before the book got published. I had people come to me and tell me their stories of having a handler as well. So this is not unusual. I didn't realize that, but it's common for those of us who've had lifelong experience.
Mhm.
Um, uh, but really quick too, I've had so many people read this book and then reach out to me and say, "I feel like you just told my life story." I mean, our names are different and the little details are different, but the
That's
same things happen.
terrifying.
Yeah.
And yeah, and more than you would think. Not
Ugh.
like one or two.
No, I
It
believe
happens
it. I
every
believe
day.
it because when you share your story, other people are gonna feel comfortable sharing theirs, and this isn't something that gets talked about more so now, right? But
Yeah.
it's just so many people have held this inside of themselves for so
Mhm.
long.
And as tragic as it is, I'm just so happy that people can get it out there and
Yeah.
share it and get it off their chest and start the healing process. Because if healing needs to happen and I can help facilitate that in some way, then I am a happy girl for the day, and I can say, "Yeah, I loved you talking about your checklists. I love checklists. I'm a checklist girl too. If I could just have everything on my
Old
table
school.
be helps, and if the whole checklist was help somebody, that would be my fantasy, is to do nothing but just help.
I think
And
that it's happening more than you realize.
oh, thank you. I hope so. I really do. That would be amazing. But so, yeah, but back to the handler. Yeah, he appeared as a man. He was with me from my youngest memories. He looked like a military guy with the square jaw, the buzz cut, the just real, burly, kind of strong. Um, Sometimes he was in like military fatigues tucked into boots. Not always, but sometimes, I was wearing different things at different times. And sometimes later, especially later in life, I noticed that he would kind of fuzz out like a hologram. And I'd be like, that's not what you really look like, is it? And I got close to him like Stockholm syndrome, capture bonding kind of thing. So I developed an affection towards him. I didn't feel an affection back from him, but I felt a protective almost thing from him. Like he was going to protect me. It's what he always said anyway. Um, and I said, I want to see what you really look like, because I knew that he was covering what he really was. And I know it's going to sound crazy, but when he showed me this, and this is another similarity I have with so many other people, he was actually reptilian. And not what you might think. I mean, they don't all look the same. There were lots of different types of reptilians on in
Mhm.
these facilities where I went. He was beautiful. He had a very squared face. He um, was almost shining, shimmery, like almost his skin almost looked bejeweled, like opalescent. It was beautiful. He was beautiful. His eyes initially were very blue, like ice blue, and then in his reptilian form, they were more gold, just golden, beautiful gold eyes. And he was beautiful. I found him stunning. Um, and The last time I saw him was not long ago. It was in the past year. And he came back in an astral um, and wanted me to come back. Said he was sick and wanted me to come back because I was the only one who could help him. I said, that's not true, because I'm not your creator. I can't help you. And I am not going back, because I'd already revoked those permissions that I had given. But he didn't look beautiful anymore. He looked just, um, he had a very flat, almost gray, brown, green color about him. I could see the line down the middle of his face so clearly, and the line across the top of his forehead that was like protruding. His eyes had all these brown flecks in them. In the gold, it wasn't golden anymore. He wasn't shimmery anymore. He wasn't beautiful anymore. I don't know if he was dying. I think he was trying to appeal to my sense of wanting to, I'll try to help or save anything, anyone on earth, anyone or anything back to health. I mean, I don't care if it's a bunny rabbit or a bird or a lizard or what have you. If it needs me, I'm going to help, or a person. Um, and so I
Just not
think
a
that's
reptilian.
just not a reptilian entity. Yeah,
That's
just not
fair.
him, because those memories were not good for me. There was not a
Mhm.
pleasant life. It was not happy. It was not joyful, and he was not. You know, in the end, it was like equivalent again to an abusive relationship where, here I'm going to give you something nice to kind of keep you on the hook, but the rest of it was horrifying. And so while he was protecting me, he was also keeping me there. He was also
Mhm.
my captor. So, but you form an attachment to a captor because they keep you safe. They give you food, they give you clothing, they give you water, whatever your needs are, depending on what your situation is. And I
Mhm.
had that with him. And yeah, I refused to go back. So, but that was yeah, that was a really interesting scenario. But he was with me my whole life. And like I said, I know that he did keep me safe. And because when we'd be walking around, these entities that were there were also a lot of Nordic entities, a lot of different kinds of grays, a lot of different kinds of reptilians, and they didn't all look like like he did. Some had really round faces. It's funny how much they look like some of our animals. Like some of them looked almost like frog faces. And then there were the insect types that had the mantis look with the
Mm.
big, weird arms and legs that just seemed to bend in the wrong direction. And they were never, for me, I don't have any memories of them being right up close to me. If I do, I've blocked those. I always have memories of seeing them from like across the room. They always seemed like they were watching everybody, like maybe they were kind of in charge or something. But again, no one sat me down and said this is the pecking order, but I could definitely tell that some of them were more higher up on the food chain than others. So, and I think
Mm.
that was they were among them.
So they're doing these experiments or whatever they're doing, right? They're taking human bodies for all the things you said, but w- why? What is their plan? Did you find any information out? Like, why are we so important to them?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that happened to me along the way was that I had missing pregnancies. And the first time it happened was actually the first time that I got pregnant. And I was married, so it wasn't like it was a shock. I didn't expect to be pregnant. We weren't trying or anything. So it was a surprise that we got pregnant, but I went to a doctor, everything was confirmed, and went through my first trimester appointments, and this was in the 80s. And so you had to go in and get your blood test and all that stuff. It was different than it is now. Um, and had my prescription for my prenatal vitamins, and everything was going along fine. And at some point, and you never know quite sure what point you are that early, but it was somewhere between the 8 and 14 weeks. I woke up in the middle of the night and my abdomen just hurt so bad, and it was just cramping and hurting, but I wasn't bleeding. I had a tiny bit of spotting, but I was not bleeding. And so my then husband took me to the emergency room, and they tested. I was still testing positive that I was pregnant, but they couldn't find a heartbeat, so they did an ultrasound, and there was no baby. And they did a DNC, and there was no fetal tissue in my womb. Nothing. It was clean. I mean, and they're like, did you lose this baby at home? I'm like, no. I mean, as women, we know if something comes out of us. Okay, it's not like that's just gonna
It
slip
could have.
past. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's and they're like, well, you must have lost it at home and not realized it. I'm like,
How do you not realize?
how do you not realize it? It would be somewhere, but they always have an excuse, right? And so this happened a few times, and I didn't. Then I had a time where I was taken, and
Did
this
you say that
particular,
happened a few times?
yes, yes.
Oh, honey.
And again, this is another scenario where since then I have spoken with so many women who went through the same thing, who said, I went in and the amniotic sac was still there, but the baby wasn't in it, but the baby had been in there. Or, this part was there, but the fetus was gone. Or, we've all heard the heartbeat. Some had seen the baby, some had, and then it's gone with no explanation. And then in 2022, the US government released a report, and it's in the book. It's called, I have to look real quick. It's called Acute and Subacute Field Effects on Human Biological Tissues. It's a government report released in 2022 about the anomalous things that people who have been exposed to UAPs have experienced. Among those on that list was missing pregnancies. And I felt like for the first time I was vindicated, and all these other women were as well, because someone admitted.
That is so recent.
Yeah.
But the report itself includes data that goes back to the 1800s.
What?
Oh yeah, they have
Wow.
been
That's what I'm saying.
gathering,
That information released is so recent. It's kind of
Mhm.
infuriating to me.
and it's over 100 years of data, and it's not even complete. It was only a small portion of the data from that period of time, like a tiny portion.
Do
I
you
think
feel like
that's
our own government is involved in this? Do you think that some of the humans that you saw, like, they weren't just unwilling participants, but there are definitely willing participants in these studies?
absolutely. I
Mm.
have no doubt in my mind that if it's not official government agencies, then it's offshoots or powers that be or controlling
Well,
bodies,
right,
you know,
because
because we
there's
don't know
so
who's
much
in
going
charge.
on, like, Area 51 isn't even government ran, like, it's a private.
Mhm. They have so
Mm.
many ways around it. So once they contract something out, they don't have to share anything with the public because it's no longer a government agency.
Mhm.
So there were so many people, you know, smart people, and it takes, you know, if they're trying to get information, they want in exchange for being allowed. You go back to the Greada Treaty, where you know, supposedly back in the time of Eisenhower and the Majestic 12, they made a deal in exchange for technology, and this happened in the 1940s, that they would allow these entities to experiment on humans and animals, just
Mm.
as long as they let us know who they were taking, which fell apart really quickly. No one ever did that. And, but that's how it works. There has to be permission given somewhere along the way. Someone has to agree to it. And, you know, they wanted that technology. And so they need companies who can then figure out what to do with it, right? How to
Mm.
implement, how to bring it into our society. Look how far we've come in the last 100 years to
Mm.
go from horses and buggies and telegrams to this. It's
Mm.
crazy.
Yeah.
It's insane the amount of, yeah,
It's such
of
a price
technology.
to pay, though.
It is. It is. Just look at the animal mutilations alone. I mean, the cattle mutilations is shocking and scary and terrifying. And then when you realize that there are also human mutilations, they just don't get reported and talked about, but
Mhm.
they are reported. You can find them, not all of them, but you can find some of them. That is even more shocking. It's like, but
Mhm.
they don't. That doesn't hit the mainstream media. You know, it doesn't hit the press.
Mhm.
So there's just so much more to it that isn't shared that we don't know, and they're trying to just share and just enough information to make people accepting without knowing what might really be going on,
Yeah.
or to maybe share enough information to make people give people the wrong idea
Mm.
on a negative side or a positive side. So, you know, it's so hard to know what to trust and who to
Mhm.
trust. I don't think we can trust anyone in our government, quite honestly.
No,
No.
I'll agree with that. You
Yeah.
talk about their end game being, like, the children, like, the babies. Is that
Yes.
why the rapes are occurring, is because they're trying to create life, or
I don't think they need to do that to create life. That was more of a plus for some of them. Some of these entities like that. And also some of
Mhm.
that was used to show the humans working there what would happen if they stepped out of line. Um, and because then they harvested my eggs and then put that back into me after it was fertilized. And on one occasion that I have a very clear memory of, I was in the underground facility and they took me to a hallway I'd never been down before. And it was very dark red kind of backlighting. And on either side, it was a wide hallway, very tall. On either side, it looked like rows of aquariums you'd see in a pet store. And in those were what I could only describe as some sort of fetuses in each one at different stages of development.
Mm.
And I don't know what they were, if they were human or hybrid or animal or alien. I have no idea. We get down, but they all look different and at different stages. And of course, I could only see so tall, so I don't know what was above me.
Mhm.
We get down to the end of that hallway before it turns into a different kind of hall, and there's a door on either side, and they open one of those doors and motion for me to go in. I was with like a gray and a Nordic at the time, and it's a room the size of a large closet. And there's a woman in there, and she is on the floor imitating childbirth. And yeah, I was just disgusted by it. She had a little baby with her, but it didn't look human. And I was quickly turned the other way because They said, "This is your baby," and they handed me a baby, and they said, "It's a good baby. Hold your baby. This is your baby. It's a good baby." I kept saying, "It's a good baby. It's a good baby." And I took this baby, and it was very dark red in color, almost purpley blue, but not like dead, like a blue baby. It red. Its head was really large for its body, but it was small in general. It was really little, and I it didn't move like a normal baby. It was very curled up on itself. So I held it up to me and just tried to cuddle it, and it didn't respond to me. And I just kept looking at it and trying to get it to just, cuddle into me and respond to me the way my babies would, the way any baby would. And I'm like, "What's wrong with it? It won't cuddle to me. It won't respond to me." And I'm like, "What's wrong with my baby? What's wrong with this baby?" And I'm getting very upset at this point. And they realize that. And they're like, "Okay, you need to, give us the baby back. It's time to go." I'm like, "No, this is my baby. I'm taking my baby. I'm not giving it back. Oh, hell no." And I tried to keep it. I was not going to give it back. I was very combative at that point. And so at that point, I was switched off. The next thing I know, I wake up, I'm back home, and I wake up and I don't have my baby. And that was one of the most that was really hard. That was really hard. Because I just wanted to fix it. I wanted to keep it. I wanted it to be okay. And that was one of the most difficult things that ever happened there.
Karin,
I'm
you're
sorry.
you're doing a really good job sharing.
Sorry.
I just want to validate. I understand how challenging this is to talk about. It is very heavy. And the fact that you're sharing just speaks volumes about the character of you and how important it is for you to share your story.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, when I was going through the missing pregnancies and holding this baby, I had to have been in my early 20s. Yeah, between that 20 and 30 was when those happened. So, and there were a few more after that, but really, holding that baby, I was in my 20s, probably about 24, 25, maybe.
Mm,
Um, and yeah, that was one of the most traumatic. And after that, I wanted them, and I prayed for them. And I wanted, if I had any surviving children, hybrid or not, whatever they were, I wanted them. And then one day, it was only a couple of years ago, I woke up and there were three boys standing beside my bed, and they looked like my boys. And I said one of my kids' names out loud. I'm like, "Hey, so and so," I'm not gonna say his name here, but what's wrong? And I realized it wasn't that son because these guys were too short. My kids are older and taller at this point, but they looked like my kids. I could see the resemblance. And I hit my husband. I'm like, "Hey, wake up. Look, look, look." And he would not move. He was just shut off completely. Could not rouse him. So, and I'm shaking him, trying to get him to wake up. He won't wake up. So I turn back to the boys, and there's three of them standing there. They all have on what looks like gray hooded sweatshirt type things, hoodies. And I can tell their skin is darker and their eyes are very dark and black looking. But
mhm.
that could have been the light too, because I couldn't get a clear look at that. But I could see resemblance. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you were here. I'm so excited. Oh, and I was so excited. And they didn't smile at me. They didn't look happy or excited at all to see me. They just said, and again, we go back to mind speak. It wasn't verbal. They said, "You have to come with us." And I said, "No, no, I can't come with you." But, I'm just like, "How are you? Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're here." And they're like, "You have to come with us." And they're looking angry. And I'm like, "No, what's wrong?" And I just felt this evil coming off of them
Mm,
and this anger. And I mean, it was palpable and I did not expect it. I am just thrilled and expecting something completely different. And they are just not. It was scary. And suddenly I'm just terrified and I feel that I'm in danger. I can feel it coming in. I'm like, no, I'm not going with you. And they start to literally levitate me off the bed. And I'm like, no, in Jesus' name, no, I'm not going with you. And it just came out of my mouth like just wasn't even thinking about it. And the second I said that, I dropped down under the bed. My husband sits straight up in bed and says, what? And they are gone. Just all within that, 3 seconds of time. And I was just like, oh, they're gone. They're gone. But, I didn't feel like they had any kind of a soul. I didn't sense any kind of love. I didn't sense any kind of soul. I didn't, you can feel a soul even in in my cats. I feel that love in the little frogs that jump across my back porch even, because they come up for a drink and stuff because we're in Texas and it's hot. So I make sure I put water out for them. You just feel love from the birds and everything else. There was nothing. It was just empty and just blank. And then what I did feel was danger. And just evil, palpable evil. It was the last thing I expected. But I do feel like I got closure. And I do feel like I got an explanation that that's part of what they're doing, is trying to create these entities. Maybe they're trying to manufacture a soul. They clearly didn't do it with these ones, but
Yeah.
so, and there's a lot more to it than we realize, than anyone realizes.
Oh, I
Because I'm
can't
just a little
even.
tiny piece of this story, Who
Yeah.
knows what else?
Oh,
It's a lot.
it is a lot. Yeah. I mean, we're running short on time, unfortunately.
Wow, we really.
There's so much more that we didn't even touch on that you talk about in your book. And so I'm
I will come back.
encouraging all of the listeners to buy the book. Like, where
Well,
can
I
they?
love you guys too. I would happily come back. It has been lovely to sit with both of you tonight. I have enjoyed every minute.
You're always welcome, Karen.
Thank
Seriously.
you.
We
You're
would
both
love
just
to
so
have you.
loving and lovely. I feel just like I'm sitting with sisters. It's amazing. Thank
Good. That's
That's
what we want for you.
you. That comes
We love
across
it.
very well. Thank you. Thank
Good.
you.
Yeah, it's like we're just hanging out. It's just
Yeah.
that's right.
Okay.
authentic conversation. Let's have it. We're all about it.
Well, 2 hours does not fly by this quickly unless you're having a really nice time with someone. This has been amazing. So thank you.
Well, thank you. You have been amazing. Absolutely.
It's a love fest in here. I love you guys.
That's what
Okay.
we're at. That's
That's what it's
definitely what
all
we do.
about.
Good.
What
I
it's
love
all
it. I love
about.
it. I love it.
Mhm. So where can we grab the book?
Oh, yes. So the book is available exclusively at lamarzulli.net. That is the only place you'll find it right now. lamarzulli.net.
I have to hurry and fix that because I have
LAMARZULLI
people asking
.net. Yes.
before I forget.
And right now he is running a special where if you buy my book, you get I don't know how long it's going on, but I know it's going on right now. If you buy mine, you get his book, the 70-year the UFO disclosure book, his book free. So that is going on right now. And you can find me at KarinWilkinsonAuthor.com. And you can also link to him through my website. You can send me a message. Please send me a message through my website. I love to hear from people. And I will get back to you. It may not be quickly because I get a lot of messages, but I promise you I do get to them all and I do get back to you.
Oh, that's
If you
great.
want. Some people just don't want me to necessarily get back. You just want to share, and that's fine too.
Yeah.
And you can find me on Facebook at my name, Karin Wilkinson. On Instagram, it's Karin Wilkinson Author. And links to all of those are across all the other platforms. So you can find those links on my website or my website on my Facebook, etc. So, but yeah, lamarzulli.net is the place to find the book. And please, I encourage you, if you want to reach out to me, please do. Please do. You're not alone. No one is ever, I don't want anyone to ever feel alone in this because it's a hard thing to go through. And I want people to know that they have somebody else that they can
Yeah.
talk to.
Yeah. I think that's so important. Absolutely. With that being said, and in closing, is there any final words that you want to leave the listeners with or other experiencers who are afraid to come out and share their story? Any advice? Anything that you want to leave?
Yeah. I understand that fear. I do, and it is hard. And you don't have to talk to anyone if you don't want to. You don't. But if you need to heal and you think talking about it will help you, then find someone to talk to. It doesn't
Mm.
have to be me, but there are a lot of resources out there. If you're a praying person, then pray about it, you know, and find someone that you can share with if you feel like that's important. But you're not alone, and you can stop it. And I'm just, I would hold you all in my heart and help every single person if I could. So just remember, you're not alone.
Little friendly reminder.
It's true. I just want to like reiterate or touch back into the fact that you brought up that you don't have to lose your faith just because there's other life forms on here that are non-human. It doesn't have to disconnect you from Creator. And
No,
in fact, there's quite a lot of power in keeping that. I think it's
absolutely.
important for people out there that may be listening that think that if they lose hope and they lose connection with this bigger creator picture,
Mhm.
there's something really special about that. I haven't really heard that come out of different stories, but I
Mhm.
love that it came out with you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think that's important too, that we are loved more than you know. Yeah. And our
And if
creator
there's
never leaves us, doesn't want to ever leave us. So,
That feels so good.
yeah, it has. I've had a great time. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hmm.
And to all of you, our listeners, our wanderers, thank you for spending your time with us tonight. We know you could be anywhere and you were here with us, and we appreciate you for doing so. Remember, if you want to catch the replay, become a member on KDRA Digital Broadcasting. Use the promo code WANDER for that 30% off. And we'll see you all next week with a brand new guest. Until then, be good to yourself and be good to each other. Good night.
have a good
Good
one.
night.